welcome to the final live session of Salesforce's Release Readiness Live for Spring 17. Thanks for joining us. Whether you've been able to catch any of our previous sessions for Spring 17, or you're just checking us out for the first time now. I'm Mike Torres, and it's great to be here one more time as we take a look at some of the most exciting news that our App Cloud has to share. Now, if this is your first time joining us for Release Readiness Live, thanks for giving us a shot. Now, you may have already read the release notes on Spring 17, but the goal of these sessions is to take those notes and bring them to life with demonstrations by and conversations with our product team. And since we are live here again in Salesforce Studios, you do get to ask questions of our team and have them answered live on air. But before we get to meet the team, let's find out how we're going to be engaging with them. To handle all that and more, one more time, I'm going to pass things over to the community moderator for Release Readiness, Elna Miller.
Thank you, Mike, and welcome everybody. So I am going to be rolling up my sleeves and looking for your questions in Twitter and in the Success community in the Release Readiness group at success.salesforce.com. Please tag your questions with the hashtag SalesforceLive, that's all lowercase, and feel free to post as many shout outs and feedback and questions as you wish, and I'll be looking for those questions and we'll try to answer as many as we can live. If we don't get to all of your questions, not to worry, we will have our product managers circle back and follow up with you in the community or in Twitter in the next couple of days. So Mike, are we ready?
Thanks, Elna. One of the best in the biz. Now, before we get into the meat of our presentations, there's just a few final points that we do want to touch on. As we've mentioned, this is the final live session of Spring 17, and we're going to be focusing on the App Cloud. If you are looking for any of our previous content, we've got everything for you in both long and short form at the URL you're seeing on your screen right now. Great. So as a final point, we are going to be taking a look at some of our roadmap items today. So to properly set our expectations there, let's review Salesforce's forward-looking statement slide. Now, if you're unfamiliar with this slide, it urges Salesforce customers to remember, Salesforce is a publicly traded company. Any and all purchasing decisions should be made entirely on currently available functionality at the time of purchase. Simple as that. Great, so without any further delay from myself, I'd like to pass things over to Joe so we can meet the teams.
Hi, I'm Joe Ryan, Product Manager on the Lightning Platform team.
Michael Gonzalez, I'm also a Product Manager on the Lightning Platform team.
Hi, I'm Kamiyar Sarajvar, I'm a Product Manager for Actions team.
Jean-Baptiste Winchely, Product Management for Lightning Enablement and Adoption.
Awesome. So I'm really excited to jump into this, and we're going to be talking today about the Favorites feature that's new in Spring 17. Before I do that, though, I want to talk to you a little bit about where we've been. So kind of recapping Winter 17, we did a lot of work in Lightning to improve the navigation UI. Hopefully you love it. I'm showing screenshots here that give you a sense for what we did. We did a lot of work to improve how you get around to your different tabs and items. So we've gone from a vertical left navigation to a horizontal navigation. So if you've used Salesforce Classic for years, you probably know this and love this. So it's much more efficient. We also did a lot of work to give you things like app branding. We improved the app launcher where you pick your apps and tabs. And one of my favorite things is the nav shortcut menus I'm showing here on the lower right, where you can actually pop down next to your favorite things like contacts. You can create a new one, or you can see recent records or lists of those types that you've gone to in the past. So we've done that in Winter 17. We hope you love it. And the goal now is to keep enhancing navigation to make it even more awesome for you in Lightning. So in spring, new in spring for everybody is what we're calling Favorites in Lightning. So very much like how you would bookmark in your web browser, very simple value prop, you can now bookmark your favorite content inside of Lightning. So all the things that you do to do your job and you get around and kind of browse Salesforce, don't lose track of them, just star them, just keep them in your favorites list. You can always come back with a click. So I'm sure, Mike, you use Salesforce a lot, obviously, and you probably have a lot of things that you go through, different kinds of records and lists that you want to keep track of.
Absolutely.
Right? So this will make your job a lot easier. You can then put them in your favorites list. You can order them how you want. You can name them to whatever you want. So if you have a nickname for an account or something that's more memorable to you for an ongoing case or investigation you're working on, name it that way. It's your private list.
That just became one of my favorite features.
Really?
Yeah.
Awesome. So I know for me, I do Salesforce all day long with my job, and I have to go through a lot of chatter groups and work with different lists. And so it helps me keep better track of what I'm doing so I can get back to it quickly and stay on top of things. So let's jump into a demo. Okay, so I'm going to jump over to my demo org here, and we'll put this full screen for you. So let's orient ourselves to what we're looking at here. Again, like I mentioned, we're in the new navigation for Lightning, so I've got my nav bar across the top horizontally here. And what you're seeing up here that I'm circling with my mouse in the upper right-hand side is our fancy new Favorites star icon and the drop-down menu next to it. So I've already pre-stocked some favorites. I just couldn't wait to get started, Mike. So if I pull this down, you're going to see that I already have some favorites on this list. and I can define the order, I can drag and drop and change it, but I've got a bunch of things in here. I've got a list of opportunities, I've got a case I'm tracking, I've got a chatter group that I reference a lot. So let's go visit some of these things. I don't feel like searching, I want to just go. So let's just go right to this chatter group called Sales Strategy. With one click, I'm transported right to that piece of content that I want to come back to. So we can do this for a lot of different things. Go back to my list. Say I want to take a look at this list I have of opportunities with partners. So I click on this, and I'm going to go right to my list view of partner opportunities. So again, quick access to a lot of things. Let's take a look in here as well. So one of the really cool things about what the system does is as you stock up your favorites list, as you work with it, we're watching what you're doing, and we're keeping track of what you value the most among all your favorites. I mean, you can have up to 200 favorites, so you can go crazy, Mike. If you want to put all your favorite things in there, you can just do that.
I got a lot of favorite things.
A lot of favorite things. I do too. But then it becomes kind of hard to find your favorite things if you have a lot of favorites. So one, you can also search in here. You can start typing, and we will filter all of your favorites for you to make it easier. Also, we're going to magically bubble up your top favorites to the top. So if you go to something every single day as part of your job, like a dashboard or report, that will bubble up automatically for you over time to your top favorites list. So that's great. We also hook this into the shortcut menus. So if you look at navigation, if I pull down the shortcut menu next to opportunities, so things you know about before is you have the new action there, and you have your recent records and recent lists, but we have this new section called My Favorites. So when you favorite things that are opportunities or lists of opportunities, they will automatically appear for you here. So it's even less clicks. You can just avoid even having to go to your favorites list. You just go to opportunities, and they're right there for you to access. So we're all about less clicks, more efficiency, trying to really improve on how you use Lightning versus Classic. We want you to be in Lightning. We want you to love Lightning and want to stay there. Pretty cool. So that's kind of the basics of it. Let's talk about how you would edit. And I'm going to show you an example of this. So if I go to cases, let's say I'm just going to look at all the cases that my service department has open right now. And I'll just pick one at random here. I'll pick this one. And the customer is talking about, hey, does your app work on my mobile device? And they're asking support all these questions. And I really want to follow this case. I want to learn from what we're telling the customer and be able to kind of track it later. And so I want to favorite this. I don't want to lose track. But as you might know, we save the name of the record in Salesforce by the case number. So when you favorite something, we'll just grab the name of the record, the name of the list, and we'll use that as the default name for your favorite. But you probably want to change it. You probably want to make it memorable to you so you know what it is. So I'll just show an example here. When you favorite something, what's going to happen is you're going to get this success message. It says, we've added this favorite to your list, and it will give you the chance to edit that favorite, to rename it if you want. So watch what I do here. So I'm going to go ahead and click the star, and it will turn blue, and I'll get this message, and so I'll click edit. And I go into the edit mode for favorites, which you can always come back to later, by the way. And you see here at the bottom, we've added this case, but 0001175, I don't know what that means. And in a month from now, I'm probably going to forget what that is, right? So let's just go ahead and click the pencil, and we'll say customer case, if I could type, asking about mobile devices. Okay, so I just do that. I click done. It's in my favorites list. And if I go back to it, you'll see at the very bottom where it is, I've renamed it. So now it makes sense to me. But you know what? This is actually a pretty important case, so let's move it. So I go back into edit, and it's at the bottom right now. I'm going to put it all the way up sort of towards the top of my list, because I think it's pretty important. And I click done. So just like that, you've renamed, you've reordered, you have full control of your favorites list. So it's a private list to you. Right now it's not shared, but I know people are already thinking like, man, if I get the most awesome favorites list curated and we hire a new person in my role, could I just share it with my buddy and have him or her use that, right? So we want to work on things like that. We have a great, exciting roadmap around how you're going to use favorites. This is just the beginning, but we're really excited about it. And one more thing. So as you know from Winter 17, you can change apps in Lightning. So if I go into the app launcher, and let's say I go into this Cubic maintenance app that I happen to have, I can also favorite things in different apps. And what you want to get to is a place where you can kind of live outside of all apps. You have your favorites list, it's global. No matter what app your favorite content is in, we can always take you right back to it. So I can favorite something here, and the favorite system understands that I favorited the content inside this particular app. And one of the cool things you might hear about from Mike is that you can customize the look and feel of pages with App Builder so that they have a different visualization or layout in certain apps. So app A versus app B, you might see a different view of your record. And so it matters kind of what app you're in when you favorite. So we respect that. So I can say, favorite something here, but I can also go back to my sales app. So in here, I favored a number of things in my sales app. if I go back to this case that's called product upgrade, it's in the sales app as you see here. If I click on it, Lightning will automatically take me to the sales app and it will load that content. So we do a lot of the work for you. You can live outside of all the apps and have a global list of all of your favorites, and it's super easy to work with.
Great. You know, I think this all really ties back to something you were saying about our efforts in navigation in general.
Yep.
We just want to make everything easier, simpler, and when they get to where they need to go, we want to equip the users with more power to achieve what they need
Absolutely.
to. That seems really clear in what you're showing with these favorites.
Good. Yeah, no, we're really excited about it. We want to hear all about it. In fact, please give us feedback on the community. I'm looking at all the posts and I'm responding, and the whole team is just stoked that we did this.
Yeah.
We want to hear from you guys about how it's working out as you play with it.
You know, we do want to hear from them, so let's actually take a minute and hear what they're saying. Elna,
Okay.
what are folks saying?
Loving it. Rachel's loving it in particular. And I have to say, when you mentioned putting favorites in that shortcut menu,
Yeah.
that I went ding, 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 because before I think in the previous release when you introduced that feature, you were saying that shortcut menu is for those shortcuts that matter.
Right.
Right?
Right.
So not only will a few will automatically surface, but people are saying, oh, but it's only 3, Now you can actually designate what shows up in that shortcut menu. With
Right
the
now we do it
favorites.
for you automatically, so we bubble up the most important favorites there for you in that shortcut menu. But over time, we're really going to try to open up the shortcut menu for more customization, so stay tuned for that. But we have a lot of ideas to really make this awesome and let you have control over what happens there as well.
And as a person who loves to be organized, I have to say, being able to rename and reorder, that's the best.
Yeah.
Because people just want to organize things.
Absolutely.
So thank you for thinking of that in
For sure.
this inaugural release here. No pun intended. So a couple of other questions from Francisco. Can you favorite setup items?
Not yet. So, and this is actually a good time to cut back to my slide that I have here if we could do that. So kind of my parting slide is, the good news is a lot of things are favoritable. So most of the things you know and love, you can favorite right now in Spring 17. And what's great if you look at the bottom of this slide here is I'll show you that when you can't favorite something, we just tell you that. This thing is not supported right now for favorites. So you'll know that you can't favorite it. And we are working behind the scenes to allow you to favorite more and more content. So, right now in Spring 17, you can favorite pretty much all records, standard and custom. So you can go crazy doing that. And there are a lot of things, as you probably know, in Salesforce that are considered records, even like files. So you can favorite a lot of stuff that way. You can favorite lists, dashboards, and reports. And you can favorite chatter groups, but not individual chatter posts. So there is a little bit of stuff that we're still working on that you cannot currently favorite Visual Force. So again, we know that we want to do all these things. We're working hard behind the scenes to make it possible. But we hope that this first release of favorites still gives you a lot of value in being able to favorite hopefully 80-90% of what you use every day.
Yeah, and it sounds like we're giving them a lot of that capability up front. And for some of the other things that you mentioned, like you can't favorite an individual chatter post, we still have the bookmark feature available to them. So it's not
That's
like
right.
we're leaving our customers out in the cold.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep.
And I think Rick is a kindred spirit of mine in terms of liking to be organized. He's asking about, well, what about folders? Can you create folders maybe by object?
I already like Rick. So we did some brainstorming. I met a number of our admins in Chicago this past year. We did a whole brainstorming session with them, and we talked about favorites when we were kind of at the time planning the feature. And a lot of the feedback was, this is great, I want this, now I want folders, I want hierarchy, I want to share it. So many great ideas, and keep it coming, we love it, and we're working on it behind the scenes.
Excellent. Now, Velma was asking about the 200 favorites limit. Is that across all apps, or is it per app? Or
It is global for the org. So all users in the org, their limit each is 200 favorites per user.
Got it.
And honestly, if you feel like after using this in Spring 17 that you really want a higher number, that's great. We'll consider that. It wasn't meant to be draconian, like, hey, only 200 ever, but we thought it was a reasonable trade-off for the first release. Yeah.
Now, what about favorites in Salesforce 1?
Can't tell you when, but we are thinking about bringing that to Salesforce 1, so stay tuned.
All right. You want to take some more? Or?
We got time for one more, but as always, let's bookmark or favorite some questions to circle back on at the end of the session.
I'll favorite them, yes. So one more question from Andre. Do the favorites list work across multiple orgs if you have a multiple org company?
They are currently tied to the org that you're in when you favorite. So right now we haven't done the expansive way to do that, but we'll consider taking a look at that as well.
All feedback welcome.
And yeah, it would be great to hear about some of these more advanced use cases so
Yes.
that we can learn more about it.
Yeah, please post about them in the community. I will follow up on all the posts.
All right,
All right,
terrific.
thank you so much, Elna, and thank you, Joe, for sharing on favorites. I think a lot of our customers are really going to resonate with that functionality.
Absolutely.
I'd actually like to pass things to Mike so we can discuss the new Lightning App Builder.
Yeah, thank you. So the Lightning App Builder team's been working really hard. We've got a lot of great features to share with you this release. Been hearing a lot of feedback from our community, particularly our awesome admins. A very vocal group, and they love to give us feedback. So I think we've got some great new stuff that's going to make them very happy. So let's dive in. So three hero features that I want to talk about. The first one is we've added new templates to both our app pages and our record pages, including the 3-column option as well. So you can go and you can view these templates every time you create a new page in our App Builder Starter Wizard. And I'm going to demo each of these for you so you can see what they look like live. The next one is the ability to assign record pages to both record type and to profile. So I've heard from our admin team, for admin users in particular, that this is a feature that's a must-have thing. They've seen all the great potential that the App Builder has, and this is really something that they want to adopt and start using their org right away. So in the Spring 17, that feature is going to be available to them. And then finally, one of the other feedback items that we've heard is the ability to edit the person account page. So unfortunately, in the Winter 17 release, the person account record pages aren't customizable. But in Spring 17, we've gone ahead and we've unblocked that. So now you can edit that person account page in the App Builder. And with that, I'm going to actually share a demo here with you. So here's an account record page, and I've pre-created a customer support page. So I'm going to put myself in the shoes of one of our awesome admins, and I've got this requirement to be able to surface some important customer support information up to the top of a record page. So I've created my app, I've got the account record page loaded up, and you can see that right off the bat it's using the standard sales app view of it, and so it hasn't been customized yet, which is great. We love our sales app view of a record of account record, but let's see if we can go ahead and customize it to help our customer support users get a little bit more out of it. So with that, I'm going to switch over to our new wizard. I'm going to just segue really quick here and just show our new app page templates. So you go into our familiar wizard. If you've gone through the App Builder creation process, you see this. I'm going to just hit next, and you can see we have our new templates here. Like I mentioned, we've added 3 columns. One of the nice things that we do for you is we take a lot of the guesswork of what this is going to look like on different form factors out. So you can see from left to right what it looks like on a desktop, what it looks like in a tablet in both portrait and landscape, and then also on phone too. So I'll switch back and let me dive into the record page. So I'll hit next, and I'm going to just give it a name, and I'm going to pick the object. The account one, any object, whether it's custom or standard objects. Most standard objects are supported, any custom object is supported, so they'll appear in that list here. I'll hit next. And similar to what I showed you in the app page flow, you can see the templates for the record pages are all available here. So we've got a new option here where you can have the header and the sidebar situated on the left side. Here's a header in 3 columns, which is also driven by a lot of the feedback that we've heard from our community. In addition, you can actually clone from the Salesforce default page. So this is a nice feature because what this enables you to do is to have a great starting point. If you've gone ahead and you've customized your record page and you've already got that activated, it's tough to go back to the actual default page. So we've included it here in the wizard. You've got a starting point. It comes with a base template and all the components that come with that template as well. So let's pick the header and left sidebar. I'll hit finish. And for those of you that are tuning in that are new to the App Builder, the App Builder is what we call a WYSIWYG tool. As you start designing and customizing pages, you're going to see exactly what you see is what you get. When we add these components here on the left-hand side, all we got to do is simply drag and drop. So drag this highlights panel over, drag it into this region. And you can see one of the cool things is that we actually render real data in there. So it takes all the guesswork out. From someone that's designing this. It's not like common web tools where they have funky placeholders. It's exactly what your end users are going to see as you build it out. So I'll go ahead and I'll start just adding some more components to it. And you can see it's very simple. I'm dragging and dropping here. I'll add a related list here. Let's add a detail component here so I can get some record detail information. And like I mentioned, let's surface some important customer support type information. I'll do that with our standard report chart component. So I drag and drop it here on the canvas. If I go here to the right-hand side, which is our property editor, most of our standard components have the ability to configure here in the property editor. It's actually surfacing all the different reports that are available in the org. So let's say I want cases by priority to render on this particular page. So these are all the cases by priority that have been filed for this particular account. You can see it renders there with real data. This looks good to me, so I'm ready to actually activate it, and I'll show you what that flow looks like. I'll hit save, and the activate button. So for those of you that have used App Builder in the past, and we've gotten lots of feedback, we know there are a lot of you out there, which is fantastic. We've made some updates here to the activation flow to give you a little bit more clarity between the various options for activation. So the first one here that's highlighted is the org default. So if you pick this option, this gets assigned as the default for the entire org. Then we have app default. This is one that we introduced in Winter 17. So if I wanted just every user that accesses that customer support app that I showed you earlier to get this page, this is the option I would pick. But if I'm using record type and profile to further target the particular users and pinpoint exactly what they're going to see based on these criteria, I use this option. So I'm going to click Assign to Apps, Record Types, and Profiles. So the first option here, and it's just a very much a linear flow of exactly how it's labeled there. I'll go ahead and I'll pick the Lightning app. So in this case, I'll pick Customer Support. And these are all the Lightning apps that are already available in my org. So it's showing the full list. I'll click Next, and I'll pick a record type that I want. So I want Account Support in this case. Just note there's also Person Account too. So if you have that configured in your org, you can go ahead and pick the person account and the various record types that you can create on your own for person accounts through this UI. I'll click Next. And then all the profiles that are available in my org are here too. Whether they're custom or they're standard, they're all fair game. They're all going to be here. So I'm going to pick our support managers and our system admins. So I'll click Next. And before I go through and I actually make this go live, I have a chance to review all these assignments. So I can read it from left to right. I can see for the customer support app, when a record is using the account support record type and the person accessing it has the support manager profile, go from the system default page to this new demo page that I've created. I'll hit save. And as soon as I hit save, the activation settings update and that page gets pushed live. So I'll go back to this other tab here where I have the original page. I'll hit refresh just to show the updated version of this. And you can see right away I've got that brand new page that's available for me on this particular app, record type, and profile. And so that's my demo. It's a really powerful feature. I expect that we're going to get a lot of usage out of it and get a lot of great feedback on it.
Absolutely. I'm sure we're getting some great feedback on it already, though. Elna, what are we seeing our customers saying about the new app builder?
Well, at least one person noticed this, and I want to make sure nobody else missed this. But record pages can now be assigned by record type and profile, not just by app, which was the previous release. So Kotai says woohoo, and this is huge. And anyone who's been using App Builder to create new apps, they know this how big this is. It's the first thing people were asking when we started talking about the Lightning navigation and apps. So make sure you didn't miss that, because that gives you a lot more flexibility in designing those pages.
Well, how huge is that?
So we know that customers rely on record types for their business, and especially in the hero objects, like accounts and cases, sometimes even opportunities. Like those objects, customers tend to rely on record types in order to just show different views to different users in the org. And given that we've now exposed it, and all the work that if a customer has done in the classic world is now sort of carried over and available to them in Lightning, it makes it very, very powerful for them.
Gotcha. Thank you.
And also Randy, she says, yay for person accounts.
Oh, great.
And great to see that in there as well. And, you know, I've been noticing quite a number of features about person accounts in Spring 17. And I know I've had some conversations with our people product manager, Carrie Aves. She's not with us today, but she's the owner of the person account feature. And, you know, person accounts are getting a lot of attention, and you're going to hear a lot more about them. I think in the past, they've maybe gotten a bit of a bad rap. But now you're going to notice that person accounts are people too. So stay tuned for more information on that one.
And we've worked very closely with them. They have a fantastic roadmap, I think, planned for person accounts too. So we're pretty excited about what we're going to see in the few releases.
Excellent.
Now, speaking of editing pages, can you edit speaking of person accounts, can you edit a person account record page using that Lightning edit page shortcut?
Oh yeah, just like you can with accounts, you can go onto a person account record and then you go to the setup cog, and that edit page option is available to you. I think in the current release, you get an error message that says, hey, it's not supported yet, but in Spring 17, it's gone. It's going to open up an app builder just like any other record page.
Right, great. Now, it's really great to see that there's some new template options, and I'm wondering, is it going to be possible to create your own in the future?
Yeah, this has definitely been a big request. So that's why we prioritize getting 7 new templates out this release. And follow-up releases, and this is where the forward-looking statement comes in, we want to be able to expose that so customers and partners and ISVs, they can go out and build those actually programmatically. So we're probably not going to build every template type. Like I've heard requests for 4-column templates. Probably not the core use case, but for some customers that have very specific business needs where 4-column option is pretty important. So in the summer release, we've prioritized it to be near the top of our backlog, and it's hopefully something we can deliver so you can build it programmatically on your own. Yep.
Right. So Kimberly's wondering, is it worth our while to move all of our layouts to Lightning page layouts?
So there's a little bit of a nuance there. The page layouts, the ones you create in Classic, are what render the fields and the record detail type components. So they're a little bit different from what I've showed you in terms of how you are building the new Lightning page layouts. Lightning page layouts are more about the page type and tied to a specific record. And it's more than just that detail component that shows the fields. It's all the components on the page that render on a particular template. So, but I will say that, like forward-looking, it's something that we're absolutely investigating, and how to bring the page layout editing experience into the app builder. It's a great WYSIWYG tool, and right now it's a little disconnected, but I can tell you that we've started to look at it, and we've have some idea kind of where we want to go, so it's a fully integrated experience.
Okay. One more question? Okay, so this is for the developers out there or the technical admins from Rick. In App Builder, can you add an entire Visualforce page that is wired to Apex controllers using the templates, for example, dragging and dropping it?
Yeah, so you can add Visualforce to these pages. We have a standard Visualforce component that will just present a list of all the available Visualforce pages inside of your org. So you can use that standard component, or you can build your own custom Lightning component that wraps that Visualforce page. And that's actually been a common request. One of the things that we added this with the new templates is we added a single column template as well. So because we've heard some developers want to work around just taking over an entire page with Visualforce. So that would be one path you can do. You know, if you have a big Visualforce page, you can wrap it up and then you can add it in that single column template and kind of get around that. Yep.
So if you do that, is there anything that won't work on the Visualforce page in Lightning?
It's going to depend. Some good follow-up question for our, our success community, our partner community. Yep.
Right. Maybe give us your specific use case.
Yes.
Or try it in the sandbox and see what happens.
Yep.
All right.
Good advice.
Excellent. Thank you so much for running those questions, Elena. And again, if we do have time at the end, we will circle back to some of these. But thank you again, Michael, for the great content and good answers.
Yep.
I'd like to pass things to Kami so we can discuss the latest and greatest with global actions.
Sounds good. Happy to be talking about global actions. It is a existing feature, but also a new feature. So as usual, when we do things in Lightning Experience, we improve them. So we're really hoping that, in my opinion, between this feature and favorites that Joe just talked to everybody about, it should be huge motivation for everybody to just switch to Lightning, because you're going to be so much more productive between the two of them as a user. I don't know how you wouldn't. So let's talk about why we're raving about this and global actions. So it's an existing feature because a lot of customers know global actions from Salesforce Classic. They're the actions at the top of the chatter feed. And in Salesforce 1, they're the actions in the action bar when you first open the app. What we decided to do with Lightning Experience is, hey, let's make them truly global. So we put them in the header, in the plus menu. You already knew of them because we had a restricted version there before, where we were highlighting select actions that we thought you might find useful. Well, with this release, we've totally opened it up. So you can go put in custom actions, you can reorder them as you edit them for different profiles. And we hope that people will find this really useful, and it'll allow you to do a lot of easy and quickly, fast in the app. And I don't have any more to say about it. Let's just go look at it. So let's cut over to the demo. And it's a very simple demo, as I said. It's right here in the plus menu. You already know it. But what we've done in this release is we've opened it up so that you can customize it. So as you can see, you can add, the existing quick actions that you're used to. So if you're in sales, you create opportunities, it's great. Now you can access that from anywhere in the app. But if you're a partner or if you're a customer, that you can minimize them. If you're a partner or you're a customer and you want to have your own specific action, so in this case, we have a partner, Vidyard, that provides the video sharing functionality. This is a Canvas global action, so you can do your customization there. One of the actions that I'm really excited about that we're introducing in this release is the send email action. It's a new quick action that you can set up in your org. It allows you to send an email from Salesforce wherever you are in the app. And if you've used quick actions before as global actions in a Lightning experience, you know that you can switch your context, go to different places, and the actions stay with you. So it's great at that. And then for those of you who remember our last release, we introduced Lightning actions, which it would help if I minimize that. So you can actually create a Lightning component, and then you can launch it with an action. So here we have our Lightning component that looks like a form on a custom object that we created, and it allows you to extend this to your users and make everybody more productive. So let's go take a look at how easily you can create these actions. So I'm going to switch over to setup, and in setup, all you have to do is type in global in the search, like I've pre-populated here. And when you go to the global actions, page, you can do so such as this. And it allows you to create new. And if you click new, you select the different kinds of actions that you can create here. I've shown you create a record with the opportunity to send email. Log a call is a very popular action. And then, as I mentioned, most partners and advanced customers can create Visualforce, Canvas, and Lightning component actions and make that available to their users. And then once you create them here, you need to add them to the publisher. So this is very similar to what you already know and how things work. So we have a publisher that you can create for different user types. So if you have sales users, they can have their own actions. A service team can have their own actions. And you can come in here, customize the Salesforce One and Lightning Experience actions, and add actions you want, reorder them. It's all drag and drop. This is all existing functionality. So it should be very quick to set this up and get it to your users. And with that, I think that's the demo for me. And we can go back to slides. And I want to just summarize again the value of the feature that we're launching with Spring 17. So like I keep saying, it's really easy. It'll let users create records from anywhere in the app without leaving what they're doing. You can work on multiple records at the same time because, as you saw, the windows open up next to each other. You can send an email, go back to what you're doing. So you're going to be more productive. And then if you're familiar with quick actions, they're great because you can pre-populate values. They have their own layouts, so you can have a nice short form for users to quickly create records. They don't need to look at the entire record home. And then if you're more advanced, you can add formulas. So really, use quick actions. They can be global. It's really good for your org. And if you have advanced use cases or if you're a partner, ISV, go ahead and use Lightning components, Canvas, or Visualforce pages as actions.
Excellent. Now, don't mean to put you on the spot too bad right here, but something you just mentioned about embedding formulas into some of the more advanced use cases. What are some of the types of formulas that customers might be interested in using there?
So a lot of times what we see is customers use Salesforce to populate information in other systems through integration. And what they have for their users is, let's say you open an opportunity and you put in some contract value. They have complex formulas in the back end for revenue recognition and things like that. They don't necessarily want every user to have to go figure that out and take out the calculator and do. So they put that as a predefined formula on an existing field, and it just does it in the background. You don't even need to show it to the user because you just give them the fields that they really need right there in the quick action to populate. And then, magically we do all the crunching in the back end, and then you create your record with all that information. And then if you have system integration, it gets, ported over to your accounting system.
Sounds like a massive time saver.
Oh, it's huge. It's great. I think it's going to be, as I said, easy and productive.
Yeah.
That's kind of the theme for us.
Well, those are two things that our customers are bound to love.
Right.
Elna, easy and productive. That's
Yes.
what you just showed. What are our customers saying?
Well, I tell you, I think it would be good to do a brief summary of the different types of actions, the difference between Classic and Lightning, because there's actions here, there's actions there, there's actions everywhere. We have Salesforce 1 actions, we have global, we have object. So if you could just do a quick rundown of what's in Classic and what's in Lightning and what's in Salesforce 1 and how do they differ?
Sounds good. And I'll go off the top of my head. No visual aids. So the good news about actions is that their source is all the same. As I said, for customers, it's great because if you're already setting up actions and setup, we're not really introducing anything new. So what we've done for Salesforce 1, for Lightning Experience, is we've reinvented the experience of actions in our new UI. We started with Salesforce 1, and then we just kept adding to it and carrying the ball forward with Lightning Experience. And really mostly the difference between Salesforce Classic actions and the ones that you see in Salesforce 1 and Lightning Experience is how we're able to access them. As I mentioned, if you look at Salesforce Classic, we have the global actions, but they're on the Chatter feed. So you still have to navigate over to Chatter, or if, we want everybody to be in Chatter, working in the feed, but we also understand that that's not something that all of our customers do. So what we wanted to do with global actions is to make it so that everyone can use them. And this was a great way to do that by putting them in the header and decoupling it from the Chatter feed. And it's, from a setup standpoint, you don't have to do extra work. If you've already set up your actions, they just start showing up. I think it's great for the users.
So the biggest distinction then really between Classic and Lightning is that in Classic, actions are still encapsulated within that Chatter publisher.
Yes, they are.
But in Lightning, they're actually their own separate, unique thing.
Exactly. So the list of actions are now in the plus menu in the header in Lightning Experience so that you can go access the individual actions that are relevant to you. Whereas in Classic, you really need to be in the Chatter feed to see the same individual actions.
Got it. And CSP Kez was wondering, what object is a global email action associated with?
So thank you for the question, because that was one part of the previous question I didn't answer. So if you think about quick actions at a high level, we have two types of quick actions. We have the global ones, and then we have the object-specific quick actions. And as the name indicates, the object-specific quick actions appear on the record home, and they are parented by that particular record. So if you are on an opportunity and you create a record from an opportunity, then the new record is parented by that opportunity. Whereas global, you're global. Now, forward-looking statement, now that we've introduced this concept with the global actions being ever-present, we are going to start looking at ways to kind of bring those two realms together, where, let's say, if you're using a global action from an opportunity, you'll have an easier way to associate it with that record, as opposed to right now, which is in your quick action, you have to actually go specify if you want it to be related to another record.
Got it. Thank you. And a quick question from Arvind. Any plans on making global actions by profiles?
The global actions are by profile. So one of the things I guess I shortcutted in my demo is I went straight to the page layout editor, or the publisher layout editor in this case. If you go to page setup and look for publisher layouts, you'll see that you can set up different publisher layouts based on user profile.
Excellent. All right. And another question from Kimberly. Can we customize the fields in the quick actions in global actions yet?
Yes, absolutely. So for your object, you can put whatever fields you like on that particular quick action. And that is one of the biggest value adds, like we were talking about. You can select just the fields that you think users need to populate. You can make them, for example, required, independently of whether they're required elsewhere, but just for that quick action. So you can really tailor quick actions for your users in terms of how you want them to populate data when they create records. And then, as I said, you can save them time by doing predefined values and formulas behind the scenes so that when that record gets created, all those other things get populated.
They're great shortcuts for those repetitive things where you're always putting in the same information, and maybe you're doing a certain type of action where you really don't want to have to type in the same value or pick the same pick list value. You can set those as predefined, have this action that does that step in the business process with very little data entry, which users always love, right?
Absolutely.
Less data entry.
Absolutely. We designed it for mobile. So that is definitely a paradigm that we all adhere to when it comes to building for mobile. Make it simple, make it quick. And we said, hey, let's bring it to desktop. Why not? If you can save people time, they'd appreciate it wherever they're working.
Exactly. We have time for one more?
We do have time for more.
Okay. So Francisco is wondering, can you create templates to the send email action?
That's a great question. And I don't know the answer. But we can definitely follow up in the community, and the product manager for the send email action can follow up with that.
Now, what about social actions?
Social actions. So yes, I have the disclaimer on the slides if you notice them. Part of the work that we did for making global actions be present everywhere in the app is that it presented a little bit of a challenge when it came to social actions, because when you go and create a post, it's nice to be able to see it in your chatter feed. So we have to, we're still working on improving those actions so that they can work better in a global context where you could be anywhere and you want to make a post. We want you to have more control about where that post goes. So stay tuned for that. We're hoping to add that in a very near release.
Great.
All right.
So I think that's a good place to put a pause on the global actions questions. And as always, we will circle back to any unanswered questions before the end. But I want to make sure that we are giving some time to JP so he can discuss the Lightning Readiness Check.
Cool, thank you. Yeah, I'm super excited. We delivered a ton of value, and we discussed Lightning in the last few sessions. So it's really the time to connect to your customers better than ever with Lightning, and we're going to discuss how we can actually do that. So we introduced Lightning Readiness Check last release, and in spring we added even more features. So now you can really go deep into the evaluation and use the readiness report actually to develop your rollout strategy. So I'm going to go deep in the rollout strategy because actually that's something that's important to understand. And we added also an option for you guys, if you have questions, to have a free consultation with some Lightning experts, and I'm going to explain how you can actually get that help as well. So just a recap of all the features that we look at. If you're a Sales Cloud customer, the question is not, are you ready for Lightning? Is you are. Currently, actually, you can migrate to Lightning. How is a question? And I'm going to go deep in the strategy on how you can actually migrate to Lightning, but you can start your project, and you should start your project right away. So what the features we added in Spring 17 for give you even more confidence in some related list. We also added the packages that third-party provided if you use any, data.com, and if you use IE11. So IE11 actually will not be supported at the end of the year in December, so you can actually migrate those users to a supported browser. So we added all those features. They are now part of the report, and I'm going to show you, if you did not run the report yet, how to go in setup and run the report. You're going to see it's one click. But let me discuss a bit about the strategy first, because that's something that sometimes customer didn't get, because usually we do a release, it's all or nothing. With Lightning, it's really different experience in a sense that it's not all or nothing, and you can migrate user or department or specific profile one by one. You don't need to migrate your whole organization, your whole company at once. So the way we usually recommend to do that is to start very small and to move at your own pace. That's what we did at Salesforce. We started, like a year and a half ago, and it took us that many months actually to migrate to Lightning. So you guys should do the same way, and the recommendation is to start with a Lightning expert that you can find within your company, and the Lightning expert is actually your Salesforce champion. So you're gonna see in the Lightning Experience Readiness Check that you can figure out which department are the most ready for Lightning. You're gonna see the gaps, and you can probably identify, maybe marketing is more likely to be ready for Lightning right away, so I'm gonna start with marketing. Within marketing, you can enable just one user, which is your Salesforce champion first. Your Salesforce champion, we know those guys, they like technology, they like Salesforce, they like changes, they like to make things better, right? So they can probably ping you on a daily basis to ask for new stuff and improvement on Salesforce. Those guys are your Salesforce champion. Rely on them to get feedback and see how you can actually implement Lightning within that organization. I will sit down with them, do a quick demo of Lightning, enable Lightning for them, and then schedule just maybe a 1-hour call with them a week after. In the meantime, they're gonna use Lightning to do their job, and they're gonna give you feedback a week after of what's working and what's not working. That's a great way to see if you have actually any gaps within that department and to prioritize features. Because if you think you have many buttons that are not supported or another feature, and you're trying to migrate those might not be used, especially if you're long-time Salesforce customers. Like at Salesforce, we have a 17-year-old implementation. We had many buttons. Many of those were actually not used, so we don't need to migrate them to Lightning. Get feedback from users, see what's actually used and that's what's not working, and you can actually go and start with those. Once you've done that, you can enable Lightning for the whole department and then move along. One step after the other. So it's really important to not think Lightning as a big project that's going to take a huge amount of time, because you can actually do baby steps and deploy department by department. The other big thing that we deployed in Spring 17 is actually help from Lightning expert. And when I say Lightning expert, it's really Lightning expert. Those guys we just talked about actually providing support to you guys. That's awesome, because we have actually product specialists, we have system engineers. So you have the best of the best at Salesforce providing a recommendation on how you can migrate to Lightning. How awesome is that, right? That's pretty awesome.
Pretty awesome.
Yeah. So you guys can run the readiness check, and if you're on it today, I'm going to show you where you can find it. You will receive an email, and in the email, you have actually a link to schedule a conversation with us. Right? And Joe, you're probably doing a conversation next week. How awesome is to actually get feedback from Joe about favorites or other features about Lightning. So we can really help you on driving your roadmap and your own strategy on how to migrate to Lightning. As I said earlier, you guys are ready, and we're going to help you on getting there. So now I want to basically switch to the demo, and I'm going to show you where you can access the Lightning Readiness Check and what you can find in the report to develop your rollout strategy. So I'm an admin. Obviously, you need to be an admin to run that. You go in Setup. In Setup, you go to the Lightning Experience page that you probably know. So the Lightning Experience page, called the Migration Assistant, is a one-stop shop for everything Lightning. So you can always go back to that page. We have resources to help you on describing Lightning. You can evaluate Lightning if it's right for you, and I'm going to go in that section. You can enable new features. You can select who's going to access Lightning. As I said earlier, Lightning is not all or nothing. You can actually pick and choose your user by profile or by perm set and enable Lightning for them. And finally, the big switch where you're going to enable Lightning for your org. It might sound scary, but actually you can do it today. Right? There is really no risk to enable Lightning, because it's going to be enable Lightning just for you. So you can actually go there. If you're too afraid, go in your sandbox, enable Lightning, and start playing with it. One of the key features I really like in the evaluation piece is a preview. So you can actually preview your org with your own data with the Lightning skin and see what's not working and what's working. So you can do demo, you can show to stakeholders and get buy-in from users. Actually, so all the productive features we added in that release, in the previous release, to enable Lightning. But what we are talking about today is really the readiness check, and it's just that evaluate button there. So you're gonna click evaluate. You're gonna have a small pop-up asking if you authorize a readiness check to connect to your org. And of course, you're gonna click allow because you want an awesome report. And that's basically it. That's the readiness check. It's one click. It's gonna take you 10 seconds. Do it today so you can actually get a report and you can start planning the migration to Lightning. So in that message, it's basically telling you that you're gonna receive a report by email. So if I go in my email, I just received that report here, and it's attached to that email. So I'm just gonna go a quick preview. All the reports are structured the same way. So we have 15 sections. So we outline the one that don't pose any problem in Lightning. And then for some stuff that where you might need to fix, we outline what it is, what we found specifically in your org, and the workaround to solve that specific gap. One thing I would like to add there is, for example, in that specific org, I have documents. I don't use documents, right? But it's still in the report. Why? Because we found the document tab in your org. It's not because it's in the report, it's a gap you have to solve. We can't figure out what you're actually being actively using. So if you're not using a specific feature, just discard that from the report and move on. For other specific section, sometimes you have the link in blue. So that's great because actually you can directly click on those buttons, links, or layout, and you're gonna be directly directed to the setup menu to be able to take action directly there. So the report is super actionable. You can go see, deep dive, go to layout, a button is not used, just discard and move on, for example. So the last thing I want to add, that report, or the readiness check, is really the thing that's going to help you drive your strategy for rollout. So for example, let's say showing buttons, you know that those buttons are used just in one department, not all the others. That means all the others are basically ready for Lightning and that gap can be ignored. So by reading the report, you will be able to figure out, as I said earlier, the departments that are the most likely to be able to use Lightning tomorrow, actually, or today, and talk to those guys and start with those guys first. That's really the key there. Do you have any questions so far or feedback?
Yes, we do. Thank you, JB. So you and I have talked about this a few times. So I'm pretty familiar with the Lightning Readiness Check, and I think everybody who has not tried this should definitely run this as soon as you finish watching this broadcast. It's just to emphasize, JB, if you keep me honest here, but this is a tool to help you understand what your Lightning migration plan is going to look like the timing, maybe the things that you need to update or modify, and in general, how to make sure everything in your org, all your customizations are going to work in Lightning. Right? Is that pretty much?
Absolutely, yes, that's a guidance. So it's called Readiness Check, but as I said earlier, all Sales Cloud customers are ready, so it's really the tool that's going to help you define the strategy.
And the new thing is the consultation, right?
Absolutely,
that's brand new. And there's a button that you can click once you run that readiness check, as JB was showing, that will allow you to go and schedule that consultation. And Jennifer says, free consultation with a Lightning expert, awesome. So she's on board already. She's already clicking on that button. And so Devender asked a great follow-up question. So is there a limit on this consultation? What's the scope of the consultation?
Great question. So that's basically a 30-minute call with, for example, Michael. And the way it's structured, it's a very small group, so there'll be 2 or 3 customers that are gonna be there with their report, so they can actually address specific question, or we're gonna help you define your own strategy. So guide you on where you should start, how you should approach your migration, and what are the things to keep in mind. For some customers, we can actually enable Lightning right away, and the migration is basically a 1-hour job, where some other we can actually go deeper and look at specific gaps and how we can address those gaps on the long term.
Mm-hmm. Well, I think I would actually like to jump in and speak about one of those gaps or something that has been a gap. JavaScript. So for those of our users who have been leaning on JavaScript and seeing that as a barrier that prevents them from getting into the Lightning experience, what advice do we have to offer those customers today? We
have a lot of advice to offer the customers today. We, first of all, start with the trailhead. We actually we wrote a series of blog posts around JavaScripts, why they're not supported in Lightning experience, what can you do about them, what are the alternatives, in many cases, better ways to do it, easier ways to do it. And so then we turn those blog posts into Trailhead modules. So by taking the Trailhead, you literally walk through your use cases of, okay, I have this JavaScript that does X, Y, Z. How do I convert it? So it's very useful. And the answer varies. Some customers do a lot of advanced things with JavaScript buttons. In many, many cases, though, what we found is that by using quick actions, especially now that you can use them globally, you can really get rid of a lot of the JavaScript buttons. And then combined with being able to create a Lightning action where you have a Lightning component that can show up anywhere in the app that your users can access through this global nav menu, you'll be able to give them the specific functionality that they were getting with JavaScript buttons. And the good news is that because you only created once as a global action, and it's in that plus menu, you don't have to maintain them like JavaScript buttons where you had to go to each, profile and each entity and add the JavaScript button. So a lot of times, if you run your report and it shows that you have, let's say, 15 JavaScript buttons, in reality, you might just have 5 unique ones, but you've had to sort of add them to all these different page layouts. So a lot of good answers. Definitely check out our resources online. We'll post it in the community. We'll definitely help you get to Lightning faster.
Yeah, and just to recap, we have a world of resources available for customers facing this specific problem. But Salesforce's general take is that you can go above and beyond the functionality of JavaScript while making them more accessible and take less manual effort to manage those buttons moving forward.
Right. And they're more secure. Because if you read the blogs, what we start with is the reason we don't support JavaScript is because of the security concerns. Yeah. So you can sort of rest easy that the recommended approach for the alternatives are more secure for your org. And that's really what it boils down to.
Trust and security is absolutely a governing value for everything that Salesforce does, so that makes absolute sense.
Yep, definitely.
Okay. Well, sorry for derailing that conversation,
No worries.
Elmer.
I might add
one thing I would like to add actually for the JavaScript buttons, if you go in the report, you will see actually a link to the success community, and we have an expert, a JavaScript expert that can answer a specific question if people are blocked and can't find the answer that actually Camille outlined in the blog and the trailhead. So you go there, you have a great table with use cases and how to solve for those. If you're blocked, go to the success community. We have a specific hashtag, JS alternative, and you can post there, and an expert will help you as well.
It's hashtag JS alternative for JavaScript alternative.
Yeah, and I also like to add that there's another great group in the success community called Lightning Now. Very simple. And you can go join that group and learn all about lots of resources, lots of webinars. You can ask questions. JB's in there all the time answering questions. And that is really the place to go to learn and interact with other customers and with experts to really, with all of your questions about migrating to Lightning. So if you have questions about things that come up in the readiness check, or if you want to know what are the latest and greatest resources, they're on the sidebar of the group. So that would be a great sort of home base for you. Bookmark that group and check it on a regular basis. Make sure you sign up for that weekly digest so you won't miss any new resources that are being released. So just want to make a quick mention of that in addition to release readiness, Lightning Now. So we have a couple of other questions specifically about understanding and using the information in the reports. So some customers have reported that there's a lot in the report. There's a lot of sections, there's a lot of entries there, and on the face of it, if you just scan through it and you just see this huge volume of information, you might get a little nervous and say, oh, this looks like we're not ready for Lightning. What should you do if you just see this huge voluminous report?
That's a great question. So you probably have like multiple lenses to a big report. The first one is actually those relevant and used. if we run the report for our own internal org at Salesforce, 17 years old implementation, we'll have a huge report as well. But most of those actually things that we outline in the report are not used anymore. JavaScript buttons, we have like 1,500 buttons. We did migrate less than 10% to Lightning. Right? So that gives you a sense of if you have an old implementation, many of those actually can be discarded. And for that, we don't ask admins or business analysts or the Salesforce operation guys to go through the report and read every line one by one. Rely on your Salesforce champion. As I said earlier, start with, let's say you go through the report, 1 hour, you outline, marketing is actually ready. I think marketing is already what I found. Ask the champion to use Lightning for a week, do their job. And if things are not working, they're going to tell you, right? And if you have an issue with Lightning, they can always switch back. They have those little switchers. They can always go back to Classic to do the one action a week they can't actually do with Lightning, and then switch back to Lightning. So rely on your end users to get actually proper feedback on what's not working, so you can actually get a clear list of priority on when you need to fix first.
Yeah, it was designed that way for a reason, right? So that people are not forced into a straight cutover, 100%, and then they can't go back.
Exactly.
There's going to be something that slips through the cracks, or maybe something you didn't think about, or something they're using they didn't tell you about, because they don't always give you perfect information, those champions.
Absolutely.
Even though they are champions.
And if you're stuck, schedule a call with our expert, and Camilla will be on the line and help you and build your strategy.
Actually, I was on the line on Monday. It was great. We had 3 people participate from 3 different customers. They had some questions. Some answers I knew, some I didn't. Wrote an email to the relevant product manager. I think we got everybody sorted out by like noon. So it's great. You definitely should use it.
That's an incredible resource for customers because, it's pretty rare that they get direct access to expertise this deep when it comes to new product. So I would absolutely advise any customer who is looking at these resources and say, still not enough for me, I'm still not sure I understand enough to proceed with confidence, they should really take advantage of that.
Definitely.
Now, let's say people have run this before, maybe a couple months ago. And of course, new things are happening in Lightning with every major release. So how often would you recommend people run this? Because obviously they should be running it more than once, right?
That's a great question. So I will say more than on a release base, because the readiness check is actually not release bound. We are based on Heroku, and if you saw my webinar in the past, I explained how we build that. So we actually have multiple releases during a release schedule for Dreamforce, for Salesforce. So we usually have 1 release a month. So you can basically run it once a month because you're going to have new features with the readiness report, new best practices, new workarounds that we keep adding there. So you're going to always run it. And if you actually are migrating actively, fixing gaps, you can actually run it once in a while as well to see how you score with your fixes.
So Mark, I hope you're listening, because your question about what's changed in Spring 17. So just to reiterate, the Lightning Readiness Check has releases that are more frequent than our 3 major releases. So although we are talking about some new things in the context of Spring 17, it does get updated very frequently, and JB's great about listening to feedback. So definitely anything you find that you think would be helpful to add to it, just give them that feedback.
Yeah, absolutely. And so just to give a quick overview of the roadmap, we are currently adding a few snapshot of usage data. So if you have a specific user accessing a specific feature, sometimes we can figure out, so we're going to add those in the report. And the next big thing going to be more Service Cloud specific use cases. So currently we basically cover everything in Sales Cloud. So if you're a Sales Cloud customer, as I told you, you are ready for Lightning. Service Cloud, we're getting there, and we're going to add more feature in the report so you can actually see what's working and what's not working in Lightning.
Great. So Elna, I think we've dedicated a lot of time to the Lightning Readiness Check, and well worth it.
Yes.
But I also want to make sure that we are circling back to any questions that we had bookmarked from before around the app builder or favorites or any of the features we discussed.
Yeah, there's a couple I have left over here. So in favorites, there's this feature in Classic called Customize My Tabs. And I've noticed that it's not available in Lightning. So can you shed a little light on that one?
Yeah, this is becoming the greatest hit. So I love this question, and I'm glad everybody loves Customize My Tabs. And we hear a lot about this. It was actually sort of a conscious choice originally to not bring it to Lightning. Part of what we've done over the last couple releases around navigation is to really improve on it, bring something into Lightning that's new and interesting, and do things like the shortcut menus, do things like favorites to really enhance how you work in Lightning. We understand that people were using Customize My Tabs for a long time in Classic to override what the administrator might have deployed for the tab set and to put their own stuff in there and change it around. And so we're trying to think about, does favorites give you, and I'd love feedback after you play with it, does it give you the value that you want of, I have my list of things that I want and care about? And would it be helpful, for example, for us to have a mode where the navigation bar flips into favorites mode, and that is what you see that you work with? So your kind of meta app. Is that valuable? Do you still need to override the tab set for an app? Is that still something important for the end user? So I'd still have to kind of divine out, like, what are the burning use cases, even now with favorites, even with new navigation and Lightning? I'd love to have that feedback. We're still open to bringing it, but we need to understand how it's going to fit in and kind of how it's going to serve you best.
Yeah, but I think it's also worth mentioning that as concerns the Lightning experience in general, Salesforce sees this as a long-term investment. So when we're asking customers to provide feedback, we're not just asking to provide feedback on, I miss what I've been relying on for the last several years. Right. It's more use your own vision and try to take a look at how we're going over and above that old functionality in a new way.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yep. Good question.
Now, for the admins out there who like to know what their users are doing and make their users' life a little bit easier, can admins see or edit users' favorites, or can they pre-populate favorites for their users?
Good question, and this came up when we talked to MVP admins last July. Right now, it is a private list for the end user. It cannot be pre-populated. It starts out blank, and the user can start to populate with their things. We're open to discussing, ways we could let it be administered, but the goal was to not have it be this place where people don't value it. And if you start putting defaults in there and you say, like, here are the 20 things that we want you to be using as a user, the user might be like, well, I already have the app launcher. I already have all the things that you've deployed to the app, so where's my own list, right? And we were trying to keep a place where that was going to be per user in their own private list. So we're kind of still open to exploring different ways, and maybe there's a way we can enhance, for example, the app launcher to showcase, like, hey, there's new tabs, or hey, there's new apps. Like, maybe that's how we should be showing the vehicle of bringing stuff into what people want to favorite versus just dumping it into the favorites list. But we'd love to hear your feedback on it, both from administrators and from end users. How is it going? What are the gaps? We're totally listening.
That's great. Well, actually, mentioning the app builder and use cases, I actually had a question earlier that I forgot to ask you.
Sure.
So you mentioned that you can have separate Lightning experience pages for sales, support, all these disparate bodies of the organization.
That's right.
I think that's amazing. I think that's something our customers are going to want to hear a little bit more about. Can we delve a little bit into the use cases there to expose to our customers? Maybe you haven't been thinking about this yet, but this is something amazing for you.
Sure, yeah. Back in the winter release, we introduced this Lightning app creation, and we made it very easy to go off and create apps for any specific use case. So if you've gone into Salesforce Classic, you've gone into that old UI, you hit a green button that says build an app. Essentially, we brought that functionality into Lightning, but we made it a lot better. You can create an app, you can identify the entities or the specific objects you want listed in that app. So if there are things that are very important for sales users or IT users, you can create specific apps for them and just click on the objects you want to surface to them. You can even brand them as well, which is also pretty awesome. And then once you activate those apps, you deploy them, then you can go off and start making the custom record pages for them, assigning custom home pages to them as well. Yep.
Wow, that's exciting.
Speaking of App Builder, I have one more question for that one as well.
Sure.
So when I was watching you, listening to your section there, I noticed that what you were demoing looked pretty easy, and it looked like you weren't writing any code there. So just to clarify, for App Builder, do you need a developer, or can you do this with all clicks?
No, it's absolutely a no-code solution. So we made it a very approachable for admins and people that aren't technical that get into the code layer. So yeah, no code required. You can just go in there, open it up. You can start playing with it today if you want, and just start designing as I did. You see everything rendered in real time. It's what you see is what you get. Then no development skills required.
And back in Classic, creating an app for an admin meant a collection of tabs, and that was pretty much all they could do. And so now App Builder actually makes you a full-fledged app designer,
Yes.
as an admin.
Yeah, you get a lot more value out of that experience now with Lightning, and the branding and the pinpointing with particular customized pages for those apps, it becomes a lot more powerful on Lightning.
Thank you. Now, what if you have developers and you want to do something really fancy?
Yes.
And what can a developer do in conjunction with an admin to really add some really, robust maybe integration or something really?
Yeah, so where developers come into play are on the Lightning component front. So they can build Lightning components with their development skills that admins can then surface on these pages. And the components are the ones that if you're new to it, they showed up on the left-hand side. The great thing is that developers that are both internal in the org that would create an unmanaged component, or developers that are external like ISVs or partners that have App Exchange packages, they can deploy components there, and admins can use those to go off and customize pages for their end users.
And are components available standalone on the App Exchange as well?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, we have a specific component exchange, and if you look in the app builder in the bottom left-hand side, and within the component palette, there's a link to actually bring up the App Exchange within the app builder itself. So you can do all the browsing without having to leave the app builder.
That's actually pretty convenient.
Yeah, very convenient. Fully integrated. The installation takes place. It's nice.
Very nice.
All right.
So I think we have time actually for one or two more questions before we call it a wrap.
Okay, I'll do one question on actions, since we haven't visited that in a few minutes. So this is from one of our viewers. Would we use actions to create feeds to an external portal? For example, a non-Salesforce portal like maybe My Task or My Alerts, and then surface some other external portal product or system?
Yes, you can definitely do that. We have 3 mechanisms right now within the actions framework where you can do customizations. And that is by creating a visual force page. So if your integration is with something that's built on Salesforce platform, great, do visual force page. If you're in Salesforce Classic, you have a bunch of visual force pages, great, they work in both places. And the other mechanism is Canvas, which is our UI integration technology with third-party platforms. I showed you an example of that in my demo with a video sharing. That information is all hosted on a third-party platform, so you can expose that in the action container. And then the latest and greatest way to do that is through Lightning components. So build a Lightning component, launch it with an action, and you have access to everything that you can do within the platform and via Lightning components.
Excellent. Well, Elna, thank you so much for those questions. Everyone, thank you so much for answering.
Sure.
That about wraps everything that we had for today's presentations on the App Cloud for Spring 17. And that's also a wrap for all of our live content on Spring 17. So again, thank you to all the product teams. Elna, you've been a champ. And thank you to the whole crew here at Salesforce Studios for making another great release happen. But as always, the biggest thank you goes to each and every one of you who cares enough about Salesforce to join us for these broadcasts. Because we here at Salesforce know that the only way that both Salesforce and our customers are going to be successful is together. So thank you. But before we do go, I'd like to remind you that if you're looking for any of our Spring 17 content, you can find everything at the URL we're listing on the screen right now in both long and short form content. Also, we will be posting all of our recordings to Twitter and the Release Readiness group on the Salesforce Success community. And as one last thing before we take a break until the next release, we'd like you to take the time to leave us some feedback by completing a survey that you will find on a URL that's showing on your screen right now. If you can do us a favor and complete a survey to give us some feedback, we'll return the favor by entering you into a drawing to win one of our Release Readiness Live hoodies. Until the next release, this has been Mike Torres with Salesforce, wishing you the best in success. See you for Summer 17, everybody.